particular joy for me to introduce to you the County Attorney of Harris County, Texas, Vince Ryan. Thank you very much, Charity. And first, let me thank Charity for having the concept of putting this thing on today. As soon as the episode that precipitated this occurred, Terry talked to me about working with the city, working with the university, working with law enforcement to put on something like this, and he has worked tirelessly along with members of your staff, General, the President of St. Thomas. Your staff has done a great job here. So with it, I just have a very few brief remarks. I'm going to speak about something that I've had a little bit of opportunity with that bears upon what we're talking, and that is taking an oath. As a young Army officer in the United States Army, and General, I only got to be a Lieutenant Colonel in my reserve experience, but I really enjoyed and learned so much in my 28 years. I ended up being what was called a foreign area specialist in Latin America, which in that training we had quite a bit of training about the different ways that we are treated in other countries, but also how consular officials and other representatives of other countries are treated in this country. But as that young Army officer, I took an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States. Now, that first oath I took was a long time ago. The Army then sent me to training in Indianapolis, then to Germany, Vietnam, and then Panama as an Army Reserve officer. The Army taught me that we were serving these foreign countries pursuant to treaties. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, CETO, the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, and in Panama through bilateral treaties and the Treaty of the Organization of the American States. Later, President Clinton appointed me to serve as one of the last board members on the Panama Canal Commission, where our major function, besides overseeing the transition, was going around the world and explaining this historic transition of the canal from the United States of America to the country of Panama, which, as I tell people, was quite unlike the shift of Hong Kong from the British to the Chinese. The reality was the Chinese could have walked in and taken Hong Kong anytime they wanted from the British. But our transition, and I have great admiration for the courage that President Carter showed in enacting the treaty, and the 22-year transition was a period of time in which we went to explain to the world why that transition made a lot of sense. But it was done in accordance with treaties and agreements, not only with Panama, but with other countries. As the Harris County Attorney, I also took an oath. And that oath is surprisingly, as really those we all take, as law enforcement officers, as assistant county attorneys, as the mayor of Houston, or even the city attorney, I'm sure, very similar oaths. While it's my primary duty to enforce and administer the laws of the state of Texas, I also have sworn to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America. As law enforcement officers, you take very similar oaths. Under our Constitution, the treaties made by our federal government are the supreme law of the land. And as Mayor Parker mentioned, Houston is an international city. I'm a native Houstonian, born in Herman Hospital. I won't say what year, but we weren't nearly as international in the year I was born. But we have become one of the 2 or 3 key international cities in America. And with the expansion of the Panama Canal, which is set to be completed in 2014, huge new container ships will be able to come here from the Far East especially, and we will become more of an international city with the expansion of the Panama Canal, as we are the natural gateway for so much of that trade coming from the Far East. But we are here today as government officials, lawyers, and law enforcement officers from a multitude of agencies to discuss the requirements that being that world-class city, that being that center of trade requires. We meet in a city with an enormous number of diplomatic and consular officials. We tried to do a count, and it's really a very difficult count. There's a shifting number, but it is a large number. And as I mentioned, with the Panama Canal expanding, we anticipate even more consular representatives from more countries to come here. Meeting today at the University of St. Thomas, I think highlights something I think is very special about your school in general, and that is your Center for International Studies. Professor Cunningham and I go back a ways, and occasionally I come out here and speak on various aspects at his invitation. Terry has been an adjunct professor for quite a while, but it is one of the highlights, I think, one of the stars of your programs out here. And you're right, University of St. Thomas, as the mayor said, is in such a great location. I used to live in West Alabama. I used to come down here and play tennis all the time, and I often thought about taking a few classes here. But University of Houston was always a little bit easier for me to go to, so that's where I went. But there are a number of international conventions and treaties that apply to everybody's work who's in here. The most important are the Vienna Conventions on Diplomatic and Consular Affairs. Today, in summary, you will hear from officers who represent the President of the United States. And I'm here to reaffirm that our state, our county, our cities, not just the city of Houston, but all the cities. Houston, I think at Harris County, we have like 28 different municipalities within just this county. And of course, outside of the county, we have many, many other governmental entities, cities and counties. And we, each of us, I am sure, are firmly committed to meeting our international law treaty obligations to extend to members of foreign diplomatic missions the privileges and immunities to which they are entitled. These privileges and immunities are not absolute, and you and I retain our fundamental responsibilities to protect and police the orderly conduct of all people, to include these consular officials. We are here today to discuss this balance, the tightrope that you walk every day, especially those of you who are day-to-day law enforcement officers. And I want to say how much we admire you. I believe police and firefighters are the heroes every day in our society, because every day people have to find out I'm the county attorney before they can get mad at me. But every day as you do your duties as law enforcement officers or again firefighters, you put your lives on the line for each of us. You put your job on the line every day, that you do it well enough that you don't step across the boundary line. What we're here today is to help you understand with consular officials where those boundary lines are, what you can and can't do. And today will be hopefully just maybe the first in a series of similar seminars, because there are so many different law enforcement agencies in Harris County that this was a first step, and I'm very pleased to see the number of people we have here and the number of different agencies involved. So please today, after it's all over, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact any of us who are speaking today. And in any way that we in Harris County can help you, please let us know. Thank you again for being here today. I'll turn it back over to Terry.